Have you ever had that feeling, that sort of unsettling realization that people aren't really thinking anymore?
They're just reacting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just about politics or something. It's this deep, almost cognitive exhaustion. Headlines tell you what to feel. Your social feeds tell you what to believe.
And the convenience of it all. I mean, having an answer right there immediately has just quietly replaced genuine curiosity.
It feels engineered.
It is an engineered shift. And the research we've pulled for this deep dive makes that really clear. This dimming of independent thought didn't happen by accident.
So our mission here is to unpack that.
Right. We want to explore the specific systems, the cultural pressures, and the psychological mechanisms that are driving what some of our sources are calling collective stupidity.
We need a roadmap.
A precise roadmap so that you can understand what's causing this cognitive decline and, more importantly, so you can actively start to reclaim your own independent mind.
Okay, so let's set the stage a bit. If we rewind, think about the mid-20th century. Your main source of news was a physical newspaper.
Or the evening broadcast, maybe?
Right. And you had time to sit with an idea, to form an opinion. Slowly, you could even change your mind over the course of a day.
There was space.
There was space to process.
That processing space is now just gone. It's completely overrun. We are living in what is probably the loudest moment in human history.
Not just a figure of speech.
No, I mean physically. The sheer volume of data, alerts, crises, micro-provocations. What you're exposed to in a single afternoon now is more than what people a few generations ago saw in a month.
And that volume, that inescapable noise, just kicks our brains straight into what we're calling survival mode.
That's the system breakdown. The source material uses this really high-stakes analogy. Think about designing a complex autonomous system.
Like for traffic control or...
Or an AI, a Tesla, yeah. When you flood any sophisticated system with too many inputs at once, when the cognitive load just exceeds its capacity, it has to stop processing carefully.
It can't do deep analysis anymore.
It can't. So it switches instantly to pattern recognition. It's not trying to solve a new problem anymore.
It's just scrambling to find the closest match to an old problem it's already solved.
Exactly. It gets expedient. It makes snap judgments based on what it's seen before, not on the actual complex situation in front of it. And this isn't the system failing, it's the system prioritizing speed over accuracy just to keep up.
And you can feel this pattern happening inside your own head.
Oh, absolutely.
The moment you wake up, your screen shows you 3 potential crises unfolding. There's a political provocation, some financial panic, and everyone in your feed has this extreme urgent opinion.
By 9 a.m., you've been hit with more emotionally demanding data than a pre-internet adult might have seen in a whole week. You just don't have the physiological resources, let alone the time, to think about any of it deeply.
So the brain defaults to survival.
Cognitive survival. It forms quick impressions, it grabs onto what sounds familiar or what aligns with what you already believe, because actually vetting new information is metabolically expensive.
It's not just being lazy.
No, it's a necessary high-speed defense mechanism against being totally overwhelmed.
And the consequence of this is huge. The source puts it so well. The world has become too loud to think.
It's true. When everything is shouted at a level 10, nothing feels truly important.
And wisdom, real wisdom, is quiet. It's nuanced. It's layered.
And so it becomes impossible to hear above all that noise. The mind just loses the chance to make those crucial connections or to spot the subtle patterns and question the assumptions that lead to real understanding.
Which takes us right into the inner mechanics.
Yeah.
The neurological structure that makes us so easy to manipulate in this environment.
Right. Our brains have these 2 distinct operating modes. And understanding this psychological trap is maybe the most important part of this whole discussion.
We've got fast mode and slow mode.
Yep. Fast mode is your instinct. It's automatic, emotional. It runs on pure pattern recognition, those shortcuts.
It's what makes you hit the brakes in a car.
Exactly. Or duck. It's incredibly energy efficient. And, it's great for basic survival.
And then slow mode is the analytical engine.
It's deliberate. It's effortful. You use it for complex problem solving, for weighing genuinely new evidence, for forcing yourself to understand things you don't already agree with. It's powerful, but it burns a ton of energy.
I get why we need fast mode. I mean, if you had to use slow mode to calculate the velocity of an oncoming car, you'd never make it across the street.
Right.
But the problem, as the source points out, is that in this always-on world, we're now living almost our entire lives in fast mode.
Precisely. And the great vulnerability of fast mode is its reliance on what the source calls mental templates.
Okay, what's that?
When fast mode sees something new, like a nuanced economic policy, it doesn't analyze the details. It just asks, what category does this fit into? What does this remind me of?
And then it reacts based on that old template, not the actual specifics of what's happening now.
Yes. So if you hear a headline about rising energy costs, it might immediately trigger your 1970s inflation template.
And you get an immediate emotional response based on assumptions, without ever asking if the data today even supports that comparison. It skips the most important step of slow mode,
Which is?
which is asking, wait, is this the whole story? What's the actual evidence for this claim right now?
And here's where the whole system becomes self-sealing. Once fast mode forms an opinion, especially an emotional one like anger or fear, it actively defends it. It becomes a filter.
Looking for anything that confirms the template.
And actively dismissing or just ignoring anything that challenges it. You might have heard of it as the backfire effect.
Which explains why it's so incredibly hard to change someone's mind. You show them clear, contradictory evidence, peer-reviewed data, verifiable facts.
And somehow they become even more convinced they were right all along.
It's not that they're consciously being closed-minded.
No. Their brain is just working automatically to maintain consistency and avoid the deep discomfort of cognitive dissonance. That discomfort is the signal that slow mode is trying to engage. But the brain, exhausted by everything else, just defaults back to the energy-efficient template defense.
So we have the cognitive overload and the internal traps. But the problem isn't just in our heads. If you zoom out, you see that the systems all around us, they were never really designed for independent thought.
They were designed for compliant participants.
That's a huge shift in thinking.
It is. I mean, look at the structure of our institutions. Let's take education. The system we have now was mostly built during the industrial age.
Right. The goal wasn't to create philosophers.
No, it was to prepare reliable, predictable, and obedient laborers for factory work.
Training people to stay in line, follow the clock, don't disrupt the assembly line.
Exactly. The system rewards conformity. It rewards memorization, regurgitation. You succeed by getting the answer the system expects.
Not by asking a really challenging question that takes everyone off track.
If a student tries to go deep on one topic, the system usually says, stop, we have to cover the next chapter. It subtly teaches you that deep, independent thinking is a penalty, not a reward.
I remember that feeling. Learning just became about absorbing enough to pass the test, not really understanding. And that pattern, it only gets more intense in adult life.
In the workplace and social circles, there is this immense pressure not to rock the boat. If you question the consensus or challenge the prevailing wisdom, you risk being labeled.
It's difficult. A pessimist, not a team player.
And silence becomes complicity. The corporate meeting example is a classic. Someone in the room knows a project is headed for a cliff. They see the fatal flaw in the logic.
But they calculate the social cost of speaking up. And it's just too high, so they stay quiet.
And that is how very smart organizations make catastrophically dumb decisions. The system can produce intelligent people, but when those people are managed by fear and rewarded for obedience,
They stop thinking critically.
fear is a highly effective tool for centralizing control. It just extinguishes curiosity.
So the system's already primed us for conformity. But then came the technology accelerator.
Pouring rocket fuel on every single one of those pre-existing flaws.
Social media. The engagement economy.
Exactly. I mean, these platforms are brilliant pieces of engineering, but their basic business model is just, it's deeply misaligned with human understanding.
Their goal is simple, right? Maximize engagement. Clicks, shares, time spent. It is not intellectual complexity or truth.
And we know what drives the most engagement. It's outrage. It's conflict, tribalism. Extreme, simple, and usually negative narratives.
So the algorithms get really good at predicting your emotional triggers.
They don't care if you learned anything. They only care if you reacted. So they learn what triggers that fast mode template, and they feed you more of it, creating this information diet that's engineered to confirm everything you already believe.
And you end up in this distorted slice of reality.
The echo chamber effect, perfected.
And it weaponizes those old cognitive shortcuts, the ones we developed when information was actually scarce.
Right. Back then, if everyone in your small village believed something, it was probably true enough to be useful.
So our brains still have that shortcut. If I hear something multiple times, it must be reliable.
Yeah.
Ubiquity equals validity.
But the scale and speed today make that shortcut incredibly dangerous. Research shows that content with strong negative emotion, anger, moral outrage spreads way faster than content that sparks curiosity or reflection.
Because it triggers fast mode. which is designed to react to threats.
A lie can circle the globe in about 6 seconds, and when you see a false claim dozens of times from different sources, your brain interprets that ubiquity as validity, even if they're all just repeating the same initial lie.
It completely bypasses slow mode.
It does, and this makes really smart, capable people believe absolute nonsense without any real evidence. And when you compound that across billions of users, you get the engine for collective stupidity.
These platforms are running thousands of psychological tests every day to bypass our critical thinking and just trigger those emotional reflexes.
It's not a level playing field for the individual mind.
Okay, so given this perfect storm, cognitive overload, systemic conformity, algorithmic manipulation, how do we break free?
The sources all stress that the quiet revolution we need starts with something simple, but, well, profoundly difficult. It's the act of relearning how to slow down.
That feels like a radical act today. How do you even make space for deep thinking when your devices are demanding an immediate reaction to everything?
Well, you have to understand that deep thinking requires sustained, concentrated focus. Breakthroughs don't come from quick reactions. They come from sitting with a problem long enough for the connections to form in the background.
So if you spend your whole day just reacting,
You never create the cognitive space for slow mode to even engage.
so the recommendation is to become radically selective.
Yes, read less, but read more carefully. The goal isn't coverage. The goal is to wrestle with one complex idea until you genuinely understand it, instead of just skimming 10 articles to form a shallow opinion.
Resist the pressure to have an immediate take.
Please. The people with the clearest, wisest understanding are almost never the fastest responders.
And that requires some real internal honesty. What are the key mental practices we need to force ourselves out of that fast mode?
First and foremost, you have to start questioning assumptions. It has to become a conscious habit. Before you react, you have to consciously stop and ask yourself, what am I assuming here? What evidence actually supports this? Who benefits from me believing this? What am I not being told?
And the second practice, which is the complete opposite of what the algorithmic world wants, is seeking dissent.
You have to actively expose yourself to perspectives you disagree with, and not to attack them, not to dismiss them, but to genuinely try to understand the logic of the opposing worldview. Growth rarely comes from confirming what you already know.
It comes from realizing the world is way more complex than your initial comfortable framework allowed for.
Right.
But the sources note that this entire process, it's not just intellectually demanding, it's profoundly emotionally threatening.
And that's the hidden reason most people avoid it. Your most cherished beliefs are tied to your identity, your community, your sense of who you are.
So when you challenge those core beliefs, it feels like you're questioning your very self.
Exactly. That feeling of uncertainty, of maybe being wrong, is terrifying. And most people will choose the comfortable bubble of certainty over the challenging path to truth every time.
So the real strength required is being able to hold two opposing complex ideas in your mind at the same time without panicking and retreating into a familiar template.
That's the threshold. Critical thinking is ultimately a psychological and, you could almost say, a spiritual act. It's the decision to honor truth over comfort.
Growth over certainty.
And freedom over easy approval. It's the quiet decision to live with your eyes wide open, even when reality feels a little too bright.
You've laid out the whole challenge.
Okay.
The external pressure of information overload pushing us into survival mode. The internal trap of fast mode protecting its emotional judgments. The systems that reward obedience. And technology weaponizing all of it.
The synthesis is pretty simple. No school, no corporation, and certainly no social media platform is going to do the work of clarity for you. The mental freedom you want comes down to one choice, a choice you make dozens of times a day.
And that choice is, will I think for myself or will I let others think for me?
And here's the final thought to leave you with. The research highlights that when just one person starts thinking clearly, when they refuse to get swept up in the hysteria, when they show the courage to ask the questions no one else is asking,
It sets an example.
it influences others. It gives other people permission to think, too. The quiet revolution we need is one of awareness. It's one of minds willing to say, I don't know, but I'm willing to sit with that uncertainty until I genuinely understand.
And that is how you stop being a compliant participant and start becoming a force for clarity in a world that is drowning in confusion.